Welcome to the Work Your Money podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Wong.
I'm your co-host, Willie Morales.
Each week, we talk to people, either on the internet, through the phone, or in person.
We try to get the best business minds on this podcast.
Thanks for joining us. Subscribe on iTunes, and please enjoy the show. Today we have an interesting guest. Her name is Judy Sahagian. She is a real estate agent with Douglas Elliman, and she also has her own business, Judy Networks, where she also has a lot of events out there in New York. Judy, welcome.
Hi, Michelle. How are you? Thank you for having me on.
Good, Judy. How are things going with you?
Everything's going great. It's Saturday, and we're rocking and rolling.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so Judy, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I do commercial real estate. I specialize in luxury retail, for those of you who don't know what that is. I opened the stores on Madison Avenue, Fifth Avenue, the higher end of the spectrum, you know, like the Versace's of the world, and, Nordstrom, higher luxury retail stores. I also have some development sites. I work closely with developers and urban development, in advising how to restructure a neighborhood and capture the opportunity. Years ago, when the market crashed, and a lot of people in the real estate industry couldn't actually do any more transactions because of what happened, I had to recreate myself in order to stay in business, and there weren't any jobs. As you know, us people in real estate, residential and commercial, we work on commission, so I had to recreate. So I started working with a company that was doing networking events at that time for the real estate industry. And then I realized I had this whole talent of producing events. And I started doing conferences and, mainly for the real estate industry, which as the market improved, helped position myself in front of the major companies and get into an arena that I had always dreamed about being in. So it ended up working great for me through diversity.
Oh, okay. That sounds very interesting. So how long have you been in the real estate business?
I've been in real estate for 22 years. And counting. And I've been in commercial real estate for 6. And, in between the 22 years, I've owned restaurants, and I have also, worked in construction, mortgages. So you could consider me a real estate entrepreneur.
Then you know what? More power to you, especially since you're a female entrepreneur and a good role model. You set the example for other women out there that are pursuing being a business owner or just overall doing something in real estate, because it's a male-dominated industry, and I see more and more women going into real estate and being very successful at it, and you're one of the examples.
Judy, do you find being a woman in this business, in the real estate business, difficult? Like, when you first started, did you have any difficulties, negotiating contracts with men? Because like Michelle said, it's a male-dominated business. How did you was able to fit in so early on?
Well, so it depends on which way you're looking at it. For instance, in reality, residential real estate is a female-dominated industry. Commercial real estate is more of a male-dominated industry. However, you do have many women now taking the lead in commercial real estate. I think, my gender has many pros and cons, and I tend to focus more on my abilities. I mean, as far as even also in the events. I mean, if you look at all the companies that are doing the real estate conferences and events, they're all men. I'm actually the only female that is a sole owner of her company and is producing these high-level commercial real estate events. And, there are some doors that I sometimes won't get in. So I team up with a male. And there's many doors that a man cannot get in that I can get in. And I guess that's a stereotype, and unfortunately, whether we like it or not, they exist in every industry. So I think, being a female, it hasn't hindered me in any way, but I'm not your typical female. I'm a pretty much a go-getter, and then I don't let things like that sway me. And I also understand, to create the right partnerships in order to get into the places that I couldn't get into. So that's the way I see it. They have the saying of the old boys club, right? The old boys club, men tend to network with each other much better, and their competition is a lot different, and it isn't as catty. You do have a lot of these women organizations and things like that, but I like to work with people who like to be forward-thinking versus worrying about what's their gender. Whether you're a female or a male, I want to deal with someone who is able to take risks, but also calculated risks, and know how to move forward in things. That's what I focus on.
Which is understandable, because Willie and I are very similar, like in that sense. We as partners, I think we bring out the best in each other. We also have another business partner. His name is Marcus. He's a little bit younger than us, but we all have some kind of element that we bring together as a team. And there are certain things that they might see differently because, men have a tendency to think a little bit differently than women in certain aspects. But overall, as a team, we always go out and do things, and we always try to connect with people that are on the same page as us, very like-minded, and more than anything, positive people. Because if you connect with the wrong person and they have a negative mindset, or they don't want to do it, or there's always some kind of factor, that deal or that particular project is not going to go well. So
exactly,
yeah.
And it's like a kinetic, it's like a chain, right? You have all the links. In order for that chain to be really strong, each link has to be equally as strong. Mm-hmm. And, when they say someone's a leader, like with my team, I make everybody accountable and a leader. It doesn't matter if they're my assistant. It doesn't matter if they just started as an intern. I give everyone the empowerment to feel like they're a leader of the task that's in front of them. And they have to be accountable for the task that they accept to do. And, I try to work with everyone on their strengths and identify their weaknesses, and then I bring other people to fill in those weaknesses. And I just try to keep the team, because it is always about the team, strong with each other. And I try to create an environment, where everybody's working together. And I think one of the most important keys is communication. What you're saying and also what you're not saying.
Right. And again, that's like very similar to us. For us, it's very important to have communication. And one of the factors that is important to us is we don't have to agree on everything. We've had our moments with that we argue like, like any other family. And basically it's more like a brother and sister type of thing where one of us feels strongly about one thing, the other person doesn't feel the same way. And then we have to kind of sit and basically compromise to a happy medium to see if that would work for all of us. And it's sometimes it's not easy when you're working in a partnership at times, because one person is thinking one way, the other person is thinking something else, and then when you come together and you make a decision, you have to make a decision that everybody's happy. And we have our moments that we do have our disagreements, but at the end of the day, we try to make the best decision that would make all of us happy, and not just for us, but also the other party that we're working with.
Yeah, something like, when it comes to like what I do with my two businesses, one being real estate. By the way, I'm not with Douglas Elliman anymore. It was a great time that I was there. I have now gone independent, and I'm with LD Banks and Associates. And, it's been a great change for me from going to a big corporate company to an independent and being able to work on my deals. And so my partner is a male, and then my business partner with the real estate Subway series right now is a male. And I'm involved with all the teams and dealing with the people, and they're doing a lot of the back end work so that I could be out there with the people. But also, if a team doesn't agree, sometimes it's good, especially when there's a lot of moving parts, is to do testing, right? So it's like, if you did like a social media campaign or marketing campaign, there's never, you never know whether something's going to work or not until you do it or try it. So sometimes, you don't want to take away the creative enthusiasm from someone. So you could say to them, hey, I don't know if that's going to work, but why don't we try it out? Let's try this idea out for a week, and we try out this idea for a week. And maybe neither idea works, and maybe it might be a combination of both. And then you say, well, let's just try this and see how it works. And then through trial and error, you tweak it. But then at least you give the person that you're working with, the feeling that they're being heard and that their ideas are appreciated.
Okay.
Judy, let me ask you a question. By going from a Douglas Elliman to a, let's say, for lack of a better word, a boutique company, has that factored in getting high-end listings, rentals, or even properties for sale? Does that really matter? It's more about the connections than the name of a storefront.
Well, I could put it like this. For me, I'm different. So me, I've always been building my own brand within a brand. So, the relationships that I built up throughout the years, people, it helps to be with the big house, right? Because it helps, you get recognition in a certain way. But if you have your personal brand or book of business and relationships already in place, the people who are going to do business with you are going to do business with you because they trust and know you. It's not about the company then. But if you're someone who's just entering the business and you don't have a book of business and you need, guidance and training on how to build your career in your business, then I think it's wise to go with a big company at first until you understand what your niche is in the industry. Then you could go to a boutique once you have your niche mastered. Then it won't matter.
Oh, good point. Judy, for me, I'm not going to talk about Michelle because Michelle is pretty good at networking. If you could give us 1 or 2 points on keeping the relationships up, what would that be?
Well, when you say keeping the relationship up, it depends on what area you're talking about, you know.
Well, let's say in real estate, for instance.
Someone you've done a transaction with, someone you met at an event, and what type of business. Because
Okay,
everything has a different way.
At an event, let's say you meet him at like one of your events. Let's say I meet you. I don't know if you remember, I met you a few years ago, but it's been years since I've been to one of your events, and that's my fault, not anyone else's. But I meet you tonight, right? We go to an event, but I feel that I might not, I hate to say it, but at your level yet. How would a newbie or someone that's just started out in the business connect with you?
Well, when I go to an event, you know, while I'm at the event, no matter who I'm talking to, you know, I select a business card and then I make a note, you know, depending on what it is that we spoke about. Because especially if you end up coming home with, 20, 30 cards, it's difficult when you're in the mix of things to remember every conversation, to have a point of reference when you're following up with them.
Very true.
So I would make a note on each card, a little note. I would then give it a day or two. I would put them in my database. It's very important to maintain your database because that is your book of business. When I get a business card, no matter what level the people are at, because you never know where your next referral or customer is coming from, or where you can refer them to someone who could use their services. So I automatically, the next day when I have cards, I put them into my database, and then I go on social media, and I look for them on LinkedIn first because that's a business profile, and since I have their email, I connect with them on LinkedIn because now they'll see my resume on LinkedIn, so they'll know how to identify an opportunity and then reach out to me immediately if they do see that. But then I also like to go follow them on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. If they don't have a Facebook, cool. But if you do get to see their Facebook, and if they have like kids and dogs or something that you can, relate to, because nowadays it's not like business, 10, 20 years ago, even 5 years ago. Social media transparency is, so much more in the forefront, especially with the millennials and the generations coming forward. People want to feel community, and this is a big thing that, I talk with my developers and things like that. Younger people, they don't need this big giant house or anything. They're more about having smaller living quarters, but having more communal areas where they can network and feed off of each other, because that's the way where we're going. So in order to keep, your network and your stuff out there, the first thing you do is put them in the database. Then you connect with them on all of the social media so you can gauge their personality. And then, 2 days later, you follow up with an email introducing yourself or just saying, hey, it was great talking to you. I look forward to keeping in touch because I have over 100,000 people in my database. If I had to talk to every single person every day, there's just not enough hours in the day to be effective in that. But keeping a good database, social media, keeping yourself relevant and out there, I think would be the best way. And do stuff that's fun. People are always afraid of showing their lighter side, not realizing that we're all human beings at the end of the day.
No.
So even in commercial real estate, and these people, they put the real stern, tough, this, that, and the other. The reason my events stand out for most of the people in the industry because I throw in the human element. So and I throw in the fun, and the education, and the networking, and the possibilities. So people want to engage. That would be my best advice.
Which Willie and I are giggling here because I'm looking at him, he's looking at me, and a lot of the advice that you just gave is mostly the stuff that I do to put our businesses out there.
And you know what, Judy? For me personally, I'm not saying that. I mean, listen, you two are on social media more than probably enough people, especially with your brands. I mean, for me, I'm one of those guys that I like to fly low. And I can't help it. I don't like to put myself on YouTube or, I'll take a Facebook page, a picture here or there. But like, to me, to provide value, I would, I have my own podcast, which is real estate related, and that's how I could provide value. But I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, because I know you two ladies obviously know what you're doing when it comes to that. But Judy, for someone like me that likes to fly on the low end, then basically you're saying that I'm shut out.
No, I think that, when I started Judy Networks, the person who advised me on starting my business, who, he was the founder of Property Shark, he was an extreme introvert. And, you're an introvert or an extrovert. And there's two different ways of going about things. And it doesn't mean that any which way is wrong. And he asked me when I started my business, he said, do you want to be the forefront, in front of the business and it's your name, or do you want to hide behind the brand? He's an introvert, so he created the name of the company, and all of the social media and the marketing is based on the logo of the company. There isn't any pictures of him anywhere, and he's still a millionaire. But I, on the other side, I'm an extrovert, and, my company is based on me, so it's not really duplicatable in this sense, unless someone wants to be me, But even then, that was the choice I made when I started this. So if Michelle is the extrovert and you're the introvert, then you make both sides of the spectrum work for you, because as an introvert what is going to appeal to you, and then you build off of that. And Michelle being an extrovert, she can build off of that side. So together you have both ends, like yin and yang, you know?
Right. No, and that's a good point. No, I'm not an introvert, but when it comes to social media, yes, I'm like 99.9%. I just don't like really to have my business out there. That's just me. Michelle is okay with it. Right before you got on the phone, we did like a 30-second video on Work Your Money, and Michelle likes that, which is fine. I'm cool with that. I don't, I joke around with her, but Judy, what I'm saying is, for me, I love people, but I like to fly on the low end, do my business, and then get on with the day. But I know what you're saying, especially if you have someone that likes the social media side, like Michelle and me. I like to fly on the low end. I can see that might work. I understand that point. But I'm just saying that I don't hate people. I love going to networking events and all that. But for me, I just don't like to be on social media. You know what? I'm old school. That's what it is.
And there's many people who feel the same. So if that's the case, then you have a podcast, you put your podcast out, you schedule it, you have your topics, so then you put your information out there. So if you're going to do a campaign, a marketing campaign, then it's all about your podcast, it's all about the content and the topic, and touching those things and then putting it out there based on that.
Gotcha.
Okay, so
no, that's good.
So,
yeah, I'm good with that.
You're getting it from a pro.
No, which and no, Judy has a point. Like I said, for me, where this podcast is business oriented, we interview all types of people. Like, I have a show on Wednesdays here at bboxradio.com that is real estate related. And what I want to do, Judy, on that show is, besides interviewing entrepreneurs like you, realtors, and entrepreneurs like Michelle, I want to have people that are also in the business that you don't hear about. We always get complaints about the contractors or the realtor that's not investor friendly. So I want to have people like that on the show, and also even homeowners. People that move from one state to another. So yeah, with having a show like that, and working on my Facebook page and all that to get the content out there. That's a good point, because like for me, I like flying low, but yes, if I could provide people with a lot of, good and valuable information, that would make just everybody happy. I'm hoping.
Yeah, and well, I mean, look, it's just about, creating your strategy and just going with it. And if maybe it doesn't work the first time, you collect the data from there, you figure out what's worked, and you do more of that. And you just use your statistics and, just keep pushing forward. Not every show that I've had was a success. It's the failures that made me really successful. And I'm sure you hear a lot of people saying that, and, it's because it's the truth. I mean, being an entrepreneur is one of the hardest things out there to do, because you are always taking a risk and you're always trying to find out what is the next big thing that's going to work. And it's a trial and error. Podcasts, it's, not a walk in the park. You have so many tools nowadays, and you have to be in front of the right people and have the right topics to stay relevant in the market, because there's a lot of noise out there, and, it's just, you got to keep moving forward. And that's the best thing that I could say. When I create the real estate subway series, I said to myself, well, what can I do that's the most New York, So I took baseball, the train system, and real estate, and I put it together, and it happens to have a great mesh, But that was just the first step of something. Then it's now going into every borough, talking to the leaders, asking them what's happening in the communities, what's working, what's not working, and then developing a show all around that. And that's exactly like what you guys do with the podcast. Definitely in a different scale, but it's one of the moving, pieces of it. So I think, the most important thing is not trying to figure out how to be the expert. Just put together a great show and then reach out to the right experts. I mean, people who are doing this day in and day out, they want to share this information because it helps keep the business, the industry clean. Me as a professional, I want my attendees or my clients to have the best information that's available to them, because it makes my industry better. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
It does. And you have a lot of valid points. And I think more than anything, it's like you said, and I can attest to that, we have our moments that we don't do well, but we see what we did wrong from the first time that we tried it, we tweak it, and then we move on to making it better. And sometimes you have to practice at it to, make things a little bit better for yourself. And the other thing that you mentioned is, you have to put yourself out there. You have to just let things run and, see how it goes. You won't know until you try it out. And one of the things that is key when you're an entrepreneur is going out and taking a risk and just going and at least trying to move forward and take that step and see if that works. If it doesn't work, there's other options that you can go and seek out. And that's, I guess, true entrepreneurs, the ones that do this on a day-to-day, those are the ones that are always taking the risk. And so what, you made a mistake, or so what, this didn't pan out, you can always, there's always a next day, and you can always do something else to get the same end result.
Yeah As long as it's exactly. Listen, my partner with the expo, right? I mean, with the real estate subway series right now, we've been friends for like 10 years, and behind the scenes, I always helped him with his events. He always would send people to my events. Never like an exchange of money. It's just something, when I'm not producing my own event, I'm supporting everybody else's events, because I don't believe, this is how I personally feel. A lot of people do not feel this way, but, I don't believe in competition. I believe that, hey, if you're doing events in real estate and I'm doing events in real estate, how can we make each other's events, better? Because I'm not doing an event 365 days a year. You know what I mean? So I've been able to go to other event producers and say, hey, well, what are you doing? Let's market each other's events. I'll put your logo on my stuff. You put your logo, because at the end of the day, the information that's going down to the end user is the most important. And the way we are able to stay in business is by delivering the best information, by delivering the best shows that we could possibly do. And the only way we can do that is by building each other up, not breaking each other down. And that's my true belief system. And when I do come across a person that does not, or an entity that does not share that belief system, then I just won't do business with them. I get to pick and choose who I do business with. And, I could choose, to do a quick transaction that's going to end up making me look. I've turned so many people down on things, because it was just like they didn't have the right energy for my network, and, it's like, okay, maybe I lost something small up front, but in the long run, I've been working the last, 8 years on building my brand, my name, my relationships, my business. So I have a responsibility to the people that I know and I do business with to weed out the people that would be harmful.
No, and I totally agree with that. I think that you and I are very similar in regards to just the business etiquette. And Willie always makes fun of me on that because he says there's no such thing as business etiquette. I said there is a business etiquette. I mean, for me, and he can vouch it because he's the same way, for what we're trying to represent for our company is we wanted to make it a win-win, and we wanted to make it that we're not trying to chase the dollar, because certain people that are in this business or any type of business, they're trying to pursue the dollar instead of pursuing the relationship. And what I mean by that is I rather have a long-lasting relationship where I know that it's an ongoing business that I have with that person, not only on a professional standpoint, but on a personal standpoint, that that we have a good friendly relationship, than trying to just cut out the whole situation, just say, I'm just here to make that $1 million deal. I don't see it that way. Willie doesn't see it that way. It's more of building a foundation, building a relationship with those people that are very similar to us, because they have to realize that it's like a family where we're all trying to have each other's back, and we're all trying to help each other out. This thing where people are very competitive, they're very cutthroat, there's no need for it. There's space for all of us to be able to have our own, our own identity, our own space, and strive in our business. So I don't see the point to having that. And sometimes we come across people that are very shady, or they do something, and then it's like we have to walk away, because it's like, what, I can't do business with that, because that's also showing a reflection on us. Because if we're doing this project or this deal or whatever, other people are going to see that, and they're going to say, oh, you're associated with this individual. We don't need that. We rather just, even if we have to catch up per se, we rather just do it honestly and be able to build that trust and foundation with that person, and know that 10, 15, 20 years from now, we still have that ongoing relationship with that person, and we refer to them, and vice versa, and so forth. That's how I see it. I see the people that really know me know that once I build that trust and that ongoing relationship, it becomes family. It's more like, what can I do to help you out? What can I do to, to get you where you need to be? And, and in this type of business, they look at you a little out there because they're not accustomed to it. They're more like, I'm out for myself and that's it. And trying to pursue this transaction or this $1 million deal, and there's no need for it. I think that, for me, honestly, I think that that there is enough space for everybody to succeed.
Yeah, agreed. Definitely agreed. I mean, look, I think things are a lot easier now, in some aspects. Before, media was really like, you had to advertise in magazines and newspapers and do a lot of, had to go through a lot of third parties in order to get your information and your content out there, and it was very controlled. So it was a lot of, upfront costs versus now, everybody is a publisher now. You have reality TV, you have social media, podcasts, email blasts, and all of these things. So even though it's much easier now much easier and cost effective to get your information out there now, the challenge is getting relevant information out there. Getting, information and putting yourself out there where it's going to be valuable and relevant. And that's probably what I would focus on. Or teaming up with people who are already relevant and being there and learning from them and working alongside of them, until you build the strength on your own to be able to do more of that.
Judy, let me ask you a question. Your networking event, is that once a month that you do it? And if so, how do you pick and choose a venue?
Well, I don't do it monthly at all. I used to when they were networking events, but now that I have conferences, picking speakers and marketing, it's a lot, more. It's much more intense. So I pick venues. I one of the things that I love is the fact that I'm in commercial real estate because, I don't approach it the same way, regular event producers approach it. I approach it from a real estate standpoint. So I would go to a developer and say, hey, let me market your property, in return, let me host my event here. You'll get, thousands of dollars worth of marketing, and I won't have to pay thousands of dollars for a venue, so we kind of help each other. So I have a very much let me help you, help me approach with the venues that I'm picking.
Okay.
That is one of the strategies, and I like to do things that are out of the box, meaning to say it's not cookie cutter. I don't pick one topic and then do it in all the boroughs and just pick a venue hall and that's it. I pick, warehouses where we have to build the set and build the concept, and I work with the people to do that. So it's a piece of art. Like the way I look at producing an event, I look at it as my artwork. So every new event is a blank canvas, and I build it out according to what's happening in the market at that time. So for instance, with the Real Estate Subway Series, it's a conference in every borough. The way I'm going to approach, doing my event in Staten Island is completely different than the way it's going to happen in Queens, Brooklyn, the Bronx, because it's really going to be about what is it about that. If I'm doing a conference in Staten Island, we're talking about the North Shore, the mom and pops, the development of the waterfront, but at the same time, we're also going to pick up the things that, is very well known in Staten Island. Staten Island is a heavy residential borough. They also are like the car enthusiasts of all the boroughs. I think that the car culture is really in Staten Island more than the other boroughs. If I'm doing it in Brooklyn, Brooklyn is an art, foodie borough, and that's really what's made a splash in it. Queens is a very racially diverse borough, but at the same time, out of all the boroughs, you have the most hotels being developed in Long Island City, of all places. What is the motivation behind building all these hotels? What's the missing muse? Where is it going in 10 years from now? The Bronx, has a lot of history. It's the only borough connected to the mainland. It has the largest zoo in the United States and I think the world, and all the new developments there, like the Hutchinson Metro Center. And, so it's just really interesting for me to be able to go and have the ability to sit down with all of these geniuses and people who are in the street day in and day out, dedicated to building these communities, and have the opportunity to showcase that at my event. It's a gift.
It's interesting that you mentioned Staten Island, because I'm a Staten Island native, and I'm always looking at the new things that are going on in Staten Island. More so now that Ferris wheel is going up, they have the outlet mall coming up. So Staten Island is moving forward now, and there's a lot of condo buildings also by the waterfront that I've seen.
I was there yesterday. We were filming there yesterday. I have a couple of listings out there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny because people will say, okay, the Empire Outlets in the New York Wheel that's going up, and that's great for the waterfront and to get attention there. But what is even more important than that is, getting people to walk the area and experience the neighborhood. I think that's more important than just saying, okay, I'm putting an outlet there to attract people, but how do you pull people out of the outlet? Because at this point right now, you have about 2 million tourists going to Staten Island a day because of the ferry, and they get on the ferry, they go to Staten Island, and then they get back on the ferry and they go off. They don't walk the community. They don't, because it has to be developed. And so I'm working very closely with many of the developers that are out there that has interest in it. And, it's an amazing opportunity to be involved in projects at this point of it, because it's like you get to ask the crucial questions like, how do we attract people here? How do we keep people here? And, coming up with the answers. I mean, another example of that would be Battery Park. And I was sitting, at a BizNow event listening to Bill Rudin talk about, at some point years ago, there weren't, after 5 o'clock when Wall Street shuts down, it's a dead zone. But it's not like that anymore, Now you have communities there, you have young couples there, young families, and you see baby strollers. And that was a big light bulb that went off for me, because I said, wow, Staten Island is not the way I would think about Staten Island. It's not a forgotten borough anymore, but I think I would call it the next frontier. Because, right now, I grew up in the Bronx, and I've lived in every borough. And, the Bronx is on fire right now. Everybody's coming to me, oh, I want a building in the Bronx. I want to do this. Well, I'm like, oh, you missed the boat. You're supposed to do things, you're ahead of the curve, So the new frontier right now is Staten Island. And, you could still get in there affordable. But I don't give it 2 more years before it's going to be saturated, And even if it might take a while for the families and the couples to go into there, it's definitely going to happen. It's just a matter of time.
It seems like we're going to be priced out of New York in terms of investment opportunities unless you got money from, Chinese money or that type of investment money, because, it seems like all 5 boroughs are going to be taken in terms of high-end real estate.
Well, I wouldn't, I had a meeting the other day, and we were talking about affordable housing, and I was saying to a developer, when you say the word affordable housing, you could almost be like creating the word ghetto, right? Because you're assuming that people on welfare or whatever the case may be, people who can't afford regular rent are going to go to this place, so you're going to attract unattractive. But if you change the thought process and you said, well, we're going to create housing for communities, now that's another conversation. It's still the same realm. The artists that went in Williamsburg and restructured Williamsburg, Greenpoint, Bushwick, when you couldn't even walk through these neighborhoods just a few years ago. You know what I mean? The art communities went into these places because they couldn't afford the high-end rent. They couldn't afford the luxury rent. But these communities were essential in creating the buzz where people wanted to be around, because people want to be around community. They want to be around art. So if you're an entrepreneur or a millennial, where the new mindset is, now you have to also think about the mindset of the generation. If you're a baby boomer now and going into senior citizens, my generation and above, when you were raised, okay, you go to school, you get married, you buy a house, you get a car or two. So you were raised with the mindset of consumption. The millennials and the Generation Z and the generations to follow, they're not being raised with that mindset. They have a whole new set of rules that has disrupted the entire market. And, instead of trying to focus on what these people's needs are, the millennial market, you have 80 million millennials in the market right now across the United States. They are very relevant, and their needs and wants are relevant. So instead of building these big, apartments that are unattainable for anybody, build micro units and make more a larger common area where people could be creative. Why does WeWork work so well? Because people get to go. They don't want to be in an office and be in this big office. They want to go into a space with their laptop and their phone and beer on tap and coffee on tap and talk to other business owners and entrepreneurs and share ideas. That's where we're heading. Just like social media isn't going anywhere, it's only going to progress in the direction it's going to progress. It's the same thing with housing. You have to be more creative and open to what the change is.
No, and I totally agree with that. There's a lot of changes in the past, I would say in the past 10 years. Things have completely changed in how people are viewing things overall. With the millennials, they don't want to have, more than anything, they don't want to have debt. They just want to be able to live within their means and enjoy a little bit more of their time. They're more, and the other thing that I've noticed too is that they like to travel a little bit more as to being confined. So, the millennials altogether, they're more free thinkers. They don't want to have all of that confinement and getting into too many debt or anything like that. They just want to be a little bit more carefree when it comes to that. So affordable for them would be the way to go, which I think that's going to be that new trend that's coming in from here on in.
I think that's the first process in change.
Mm-hmm.
The first process in change is, creating an environment for people to be creative, making it affordable, and helping people to build off of each other. I think that, it's also, important for the mom and pop. People are shying away from the Walmarts and all of the big boxes and all of the retail. You know, me being in retail real estate, I work very closely with the brand and with the community through my events, and I'm able to see the gap there. You know, but that's like I'm saying, you know, every area is different, and, you know, there's no magic bullet to blanket the entire situation. You just have to look for the holes in whatever your focus is and try to fill them, and just be open to what the people want and what they're saying, and be a solution person. You know, try to find solutions, not the problem.
Oh, okay. So Judy, for our listeners, where can they find you?
Okay, they could go to realestatesubwayseries.com. They could go to judynetworks.com, and all my contact information's there, or they could just Google my name. I'm all over the place.
Okay, sounds cool. And Willie, where can they find us?
Well, I don't know if I could top Judy, but you can find us on facebook.com/work your money. You can find us on patreon.com. Click on Work Your Money, and you can go to our website, workyourmoney.net.
Okay, guys.
Or they could Google Work Your Money.
There you go.
Okay, guys.
Judy, thank you so much for being on.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Judy. You gave a lot of insight, and we'll speak after we're done. And for all of you out there, this is the Work Your Money podcast, and I want to wish everybody a good evening until the next time. Take care. Bye.